Tamari e morena tātou katoa. Heeni Hoterene here on our last full cycle of the Maramataka rākau mātohi pehi ana koutou katoa. Tino kino ana hau. First, I'll tell you about what we're to expect for our week. Of course, you should have all received your Maramataka. If you haven't, order it. Maramataka.co.nz. Here it is. Stay with me. I've got some really good korero for you today. So we'll just get through the week. So, of course, we're in Rākau Mātohi. This whole week is from Takiro right down to kore whakatehe, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Very, very quiet. Very, very slow. We've had a massive week. How about you? I couldn't believe the amount of activities I did in 1 week. It was like I lost a few moons there, especially on that cusp of huna. I was down in Wellington at Callaghan Innovation, not for mahi around Maramataka, but for some of the other mahi I'm involved in around housing and back to kai, back to food production. And then, I just don't know where to start. I'll save something for later next week. But just take it easy this week. I sprained my ankle on Friday. I was not in a good headspace. I was really fucking angry. I was like, frustrated and just like, meh. And then I started to get into the mood of, I don't really care about anything anymore. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Rawr! Who cares? And then down I go, trip over, fall over, sprain my ankle. And I thought, oh, no, that's the tohu. Slow down, go easy, be deliberate. So the next couple of days, I just kind of tuned off everything. And I had some really good wānanga. And so over all of the years of doing this mahi, last year was the only year we've ever received funding from the government. And this kaupapa of Maramataka over the last 20 years has really been driven from the communities. So we started talking firstly with ECE workers. I didn't understand Te Whāriki. I couldn't get it. I was the manager of our centre. I didn't understand it. And Ruben said, why don't you just use Maramataka as a basis, train up the kaiako on how to observe and plan using Maramataka, and then how you communicate with the whānau. And from there, it just went off. And they went on to, those teachers, 20 years later, have set up their own centres, and the Maramataka is the basis of that. And then it just spread from Te Hiku o Te Ika right throughout Ngāpuhi, Tai Tokiro. And it was the people that drove the kaupapa because they wanted to know it was independent. And so last year when we received funding, I said, I'm going to celebrate this because it was the first year of a public holiday. And I thought, my Papa Te Kai, he would have just loved this moment of our Mātauranga coming into the light. So on the weekend, my cousin said to me, you know what, Cuzzy? Funding makes us weak. And I says, I know, but it sure does help. It sure does help launch the manu that needs to fly. It makes the job a lot easier. And then we were up at Waitangi and we were just having a look at our wharerunanga. And I thought, Ngāpuhi, we're really the leaders within a lot of spaces because, I think our tohunga, I just looked at a lot of our tohunga and our warriors, and they were real spiritual leaders. Like I think about Apirama Taunui, Te Atua Wera, and they were very much about keeping our, first and foremost, our own traditions at the front. And even though amongst us as hapu of Ngāpuhi, we had many bickerings, particularly around trade and who could dominate that with the Pākehā, it always went back to doing things properly under tikanga. And so, of course, our leaders always had spiritual significance as well as willing to go toe-to-toe, go to battle. But then we formed the Te Whakamininga, the assembly of the chiefs to discuss what needs to happen to ensure we continue our Indigenous power. And from there, all of our chiefs who had many differences were able to come together, and we signed our Declaration of Independence, He Whakaputanga. And then that's the prelim for Te Tiriti o Waitangi 5 years later. And I thought, what are we doing here? I thought, look at all of our tohunga. They always had a problem with the crown taking over the mana of our rangatiratanga. And so I thought I really need to go back to and really assess and understand where does our own Maramataka knowledge, our own te kāhui whitu knowledge, our own tikanga knowledge, our traditions sit. Well, it sits with us. It sits with us. And of course, when the Crown are involved and they fund us, they're never going to fund our potential for us to have Indigenous power. It'll always be about just little things. Oh, I have a little something. It's not going to be about really invigorating the people to achieve mana Māori motuhake or tino rangatiratanga. It's just going to be, look at the night sky, and isn't the stars pretty? And Matariki is about the Māori New Year, but it's about the power of Indigenous connection and knowledge to our environment and us to live our lives the way we want to live as free people on our whenua. So that was something I had to really confront. And yeah, so I thought, okay, Heeni, what are you going to do? Well, I've got a few good kaupapa coming up, and all of us in the north, we decided, even though we didn't get any support, even though we lead all these kaupapa out, even though our tupuna signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and we haven't settled our treaty claims, and all the other iwi have settled and benefited from Te Tiriti o Waitangi, even though many of them didn't sign it themselves. Yet us and the Ngāpuhi are out here, expected to lead for everyone else, but hiaha ke te utu. Hiaha ke te utu. So I give thanks to a lot of the other iwi in my life who have been very supportive. I received my kauai from Rangi Kipa, from Taranaki. I received my te reo Māori from Uncle Morven Simon of the Awa, from Wharehoka Wano of Taranaki. But I thought, what's going on with us in Ngāpuhi? And I thought, well, we spend a lot of time being friends with our treaty partners, the Crown, trying to make them comfortable here, putting Charles, the King Charles, when he came up to Waitangi, putting him on our waka and rowing him around the bay and making him feel comfortable and him feeling like he has mana and that we value the Crown relationship with us as our partner. But I think they haven't been a very good partner to us, so why do we keep pati them? And I think we need to go back to our own relationships with each other as the whakamininga, and also to really consider all of this korero and information that the tohunga have left us. So I had a cry. I was having a cry for my papatikai. And I was like, this sucks. And I thought, no. Look at all the stuff you've just downloaded in the last 2 days. All my power went off. The power went off. And I thought, I rang the power company. They sent someone out. They said, we can't see anything wrong with the power. I said, well, something's happening. It keeps going off. I thought, well, when the power goes off, you have to just sit there and you have to think. And I thought, remember that time the power went off in Mototo Marae when your cousin Matru died there? And we all just had to be quiet. And then we took him to the funeral home, and then the power went back on. So I thought, well, the power's gone off for a while because I need to sit and think. And so I thought of Papatikai, and then I thought of all of our tohunga, and I started to remember of a lot of korero that he had told me. And I thought, I looked out at the sea here, and I said to my cousin, we need to go to the sea. We need to go to the sea. Because the sea is healing for us, but the sea, when you're rowing your own waka on the moana, you have rangatiratanga because you are determining where your waka is going to go. And so that was the korero that I received. And you might think, what's this got to do with Maramataka? Well, you'll get there in the end. But I think, the kind of disappointment in not being honoured, the way we think should be honoured, well, that's receiving kudos from other people who are never going to honour us. So just honour ourselves. And I thought, well, so how can I achieve How can I achieve everything that I want to happen, that needs to happen? So we need a whare wānanga in Ngāpuhi. We're the biggest iwi. We're the biggest iwi. We still, we have pre-treaty settlement. I don't think we're ever going to settle our claims. So we'd rather have the energy of the riri, of not settling. That's what drives us. That's why we're so wild and angry. But I think of all of the korero that come from my tupuna, like Kawati and his prophecy, takahia te riri ki raro i o koutou waiwai. Trample the anger below your feet. The wāta from Piripi Cope and Auntie Mere Taylor, a ngā puawai o Ngāpuhi. It says it in here. And that wāta too. I'm not going to sing at the moment. But I thought the riri is a real energy. It's a real energy, but it's not a continual energy. So, yeah, ko tai te wā ki te whakatū tō tātou nei whare wānanga o Ngāpuhi, a real whare wānanga that stands outside the government institutions. And so how do you build a whare wānanga? How do you build a whare wānanga without money? Well, I spent a lot of time on this a long time ago. How do I achieve what I want to achieve without money? We achieve things with people. We achieve things with people. And most of all, when we've got our land. So this is the real difficulty. When we have no land or nowhere to survive and thrive and our economic base, it's very difficult. But here we have our land. We have a lot of land. So yeah, our own independent whare wānanga are needed so we don't have to restrict the korero. It's not censored. We understand it. It's in te reo Māori. There's a requirement for coming into it. And yeah, so instead of me running 1,000 workshops for the whole iwi and all curating all these beautiful events, I'm just going to take the time to wānanga within myself and with my own kāhui to get back to the reality of the wānanga. And what is the purpose of the wānanga? The purpose of the wānanga is for Maramataka. It's for understanding and resilience, so we can continue to live our lives as mana tangata, and having mana whenua. And when we're at a weak point, it'll be very difficult to do that. So we need to get back to the whare wānanga. Yeah, so all the examples I thought about, I looked at all of our tupuna around here and all the battles they had here over the mana whenua and mana moana of this area, so they could trade, so they could capture the economics from the Pākehā. But really, our strength was when we came together in the confederation to determine Indigenous power. So us getting back to that. Where is our Indigenous power within the framework of the government and funding? And we've really worked hard to have a good relationship with them, but they haven't had a good relationship with us. It's all about us doing what they want us to do. Look at the Kohanga Reo movement. That's another example, determined by our nannies, set up for our Reo Māori to continue. And only this year have we had pay parity after 30 years of working for $13.50 an hour, while early childcare centre workers were on $30 an hour. Our people were working for that, and I think they should get a back pay. Because all the government institutes will never, ever allow us to live in the full fruition and the full potential that we deserve. So my boy's up now, and that's the tangi ki wa mitu tō tātou nei korero. So I just wanted to share that, most importantly for myself, to kind of condense a lot of what's gone on the weekend. I've got a sore foot. I'm not going I've got to go to vitamin C today. I have my CT scan on Wednesday, so that always builds a lot up. I'm in Poneke on Thursday, Friday, and in Auckland on Saturday. So he maha o aku mahi. Engari, ko te mea nui e pono ana hau ki ngā korero o rātou mā. Kia whai atu o rātou nei tapu wai. I roto I te tika me te pono, me te whakaiti anō. Nō reira, tēnei taku mihi kia koutou katoa I roto i te rangi Māori e. Mauri Ora, kia tātou katoa.